Hi Vipin,
Hey, how are you doing,
very well.
Aditya?
Welcome to Sudeep Audio's YouTube channel.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. And like you just said, you are not a very social person. It's very obvious that we haven't met in person yet.
Yeah, I
Hopefully
get
we
that a
will.
lot.
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
that a lot. Like,
Correct,
hey, you've been around for so long. How come we haven't met? I said, no,
correct.
I'm not.
So I'm sure a lot of the viewers have also heard your music, danced to it, but not seen your face or don't know the
Yes,
name behind and the story behind the song.
let's get
So,
down to that.
yes, please. So, if you could tell us what got you into this field of music making, your childhood influences in music, and what made you a full-time musician?
Yes. Okay, so I'll just start with there was the interest in music was always there, even through school, but I think it peaked when I was in senior school. And what changed it was, I remember this very, very clearly. 1991, I'm in grade 11, and there's a lady medical college for ladies. It's called Lady Harding Medical College. Okay, and
Where is this?
this is in Delhi. I went to college in Delhi. I'm a Delhi University student. Yeah. So this is I was in class 11, Army Public School. Been moving around the country, so that was one of the places where I was in Delhi. So 1991, Lady Harding Medical College. There's a rock show. So I said, man, this is great. I've never seen a rock show, because we were always living in small towns. We went there, and who's playing? Parikrama is playing. Okay, so we go in there, and and it's a dental college with only girls. So the crowd is really good. And we go there, and I see that the band comes on. And, I was absolutely blown by what I heard because there was a loud PA system. The guys on stage were having fun. The audience was having fun, and it just really hit me that, man, this has got to be so much fun. I've got to give this a shot. So I think that moment is 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 clear in my mind that that was a point in which I said that I think music is definitely one of those things which I would love to do. There were always other things that I liked, but I was always into nature. I was always into trekking and photography. So I was pretty clear at that point that this is one of these three things. And that's where it all started. I just went to a friend of mine who was the school's rock star. He played guitar and he sang. So I said, man, yeah, his name is Shang Thong. He's from Manipur. I said, Shang, you got to teach me how to play guitar, man. I think it's really something that I'd like to do. And that's where it started. So, I actually picked up the guitar as late as end of class 11 to 12, somewhere around there, maybe 16 years of age is when I actually started. And yes, and that just never left me. I just kept at it.
Super. So, what happens is like you got influenced by Parikrama by listening to them, by getting exposed to a new form of music, and like just what you experienced. And taking to guitar and all can be taken as okay, chal, one more hobby.
Mm,
I'm also liking photography, and this is one more thing I'd like to do. But
sure.
then family pressure, or like you said, you have an army background, so why not join the army, armed forces?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, when did that kind of evolve, and how did you improve your musicality?
Yeah, so I'll tell you another interesting story. So uh, I would imagine 8 out of 10 boys from the school used to sit for NDA and then enroll themselves in the army if they could. So me and my brother were following the same footsteps, but my father, he said that I will not let you sit for NDA because at 17 you are too young to decide what you want to do, and the only life that you've seen is the army. So what I really wish for you is to do your graduation. For 3 years, you will be in an environment which will have nothing to do with the forces. Your school will not be from the forces. And after that, if you wish, there is the IMA which you can join. And absolutely, I will not stop you. And you'll be surprised that that wisdom changed our lives because those 3 years in Delhi University had that transitionary effect on our mindset, on my mindset, and what I wanted to be. And to be honest with you, we the moment college started, me and this friend of mine, Shang, we formed a band, and we were literally sitting in our garage for, I am not exaggerating, maybe 6 hours every day, 5 days, 6 days a week. All we did was play guitar. I used to have a Sonodyne deck, and they used to have VHS tapes with Paul Gilbert tutorials. I mean, we didn't even know which direction we wanted to go, but we knew it's got to be rock and roll. And we just kept working out songs after songs after songs. And I think the big change came for me when Parikrama was looking for a guitar player. I was like in second year college by that time. Exactly, exactly 3 years after I'd first seen them. I was in second year college, and they were looking for guitar players, and I did not audition. And then Subir called me, and he said, "Man, you opened a couple of gigs for us, and I really like your playing. So why don't you give it a shot?" So I asked my boys, that, can we? What do you say? I mean, are we a band, or should I give it a shot? And all the boys said, "Listen, dude, you are far too driven, and we are going to go back to our hometown. You just go for it." And that changed it all, man. 95, I joined Parikrama, and suddenly your exposure changed, and obviously I had a lot of learning to do. I mean, Sonam unfortunately is no more, but what a lovely guitar player and a very supportive human being. And there was just a lot to learn, and I think that from there on there was just one thing led to the other.
Correct. So you started playing for the band that inspired you. What a story.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I say. It was uncanny that how life comes full
Correct.
circle in
Correct.
so many ways, not just once, so many ways.
Correct. So, because it was like a lot of gigs that Parikrama was into,
Yes.
and you started making money, is why then you kind of decided that, okay, this is my full time career?
No, that was not it. So, see, that's the strange part. Even though, I mean, from 95 to the over the next 3 to 4 years, I would imagine by the end of the 90s, Parikrama was arguably the biggest rock band in the country. We played gigs and we played gigs, but even back then, the organizers never had money. You had to travel by second class train. The flights only came in after 3, 4 years of playing gigs and playing gigs. Wherever you went, the organizers were like, "Bro, we are doing it for rock and roll. You're in it for the ride. We'll make it together." That scene never really changed. Trust me on that. And the second aspect is that we had sort of a silent understanding that let's save up for better gear. Let's save up for being able to record more music. Let's save up for producing more music. Unfortunately, that didn't happen either, which is not the organizer's fault. I mean, that depends really on the band. But what I want to tell you is that this scene of independent music I've been seeing it for 25 years now, and unfortunately, the revenue stream or monetization is something which this whole industry is yet to work out. So that was not the reason to answer your question. It was just that college passed by having fun. After which, because of Parikrama, I landed a small job, which was also related to audio, which sort of really helped me learn the computer and the tech and the software bit of it. And it just one thing led to the other. But trust me, there was absolutely no money. I mean, we still had to catch happy hours for the beers and still barely make it on our motorcycle from one place to the other because the fuel was running out. And that never changed.
Right. So, Vipin, I believe then it is your inner drive and passion that has taken you forward so far. Like you rightly said, money wasn't there. I would say money is even not there today, not because of pandemic and all, but I'm saying generally, unless you are like a superstar kind of a singer or something. So,
Yes.
when we have these young boys and girls who are watching you right now, what is it that you feel is important for them to know that, boss, this is how the life is going to be, at least for now, or this is what it has been, so that
Yeah.
they also are prepared for what to expect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, see, this question of yours is a topic by itself, and actually, I would love to probably take this up, just to be able to help people who are looking towards music as a career.
Sure, we'll do it in
But
part two. So,
yeah, probably because I think it's important, and I get so many
it is.
kids writing to me saying we want to intern, and everybody's confused. Everybody who wants to be in music but does not play or sing goes to SAE or goes to some sound engineering school or goes to some DJing school. So it's all pretty confusing. However, let's put this in a nutshell. Let's not say that the music industry in our country does not offer you any money, because in the last 15 years, I've been very fortunate to make decent amount. But there are only two streams that are, as of today, in 2020 November, there are two streams that pay good money. One is feature films, and the other is advertising. So essentially, music that goes along with motion picture are your only avenues to be able to make good money. There is no third avenue. Having said that, unfortunately, we have this vicious cycle of marketing and revenue driven uh, production. I mean, so they are producing stuff which is so heavily pushed and so heavily marketed that it just sort of washes out anything and everything that exists. And on the other side, on the receiving side, on consumption side, we have a culture of not being exploratory in nature. I mean, I think our community is not exploratory in nature per se. We are now getting a little exploratory to say, let's go beyond the Eiffel Tower when we go to Paris and see the other stuff. But apart from that, I think that sort of permeates. So we are not into music discovery, which means people like me and 100 others and thousands others who might be putting out music will find it very difficult to be discovered. So now that is it's a two-sided problem, like I said, and I don't know how and when we will break out of it. I mean, I don't know, but I guess as a somebody who composes and produces, the only thing you can do is just keep putting out what you believe is good music. And as consumers, I guess it's up to the consumer. You keep hearing what you think is good till you get sick of it, and when you do, you'll start looking at other avenues, I guess.
Right, right. So for you, post Parikrama, what did you kind of do so that your career also grew and your work field also kind of expanded?
Yes. So, I mean, the progression was quite simple. First, it was an amateur band leading to Parikrama. I performed with Parikrama for 6 or 7 years, pretty much. Did lots and lots of gigs. But at the end of the day, to be honest with you, it did get a bit boring for me. So, towards the last year, 6, 8 months, I told the boys that I'd like move on to other things because this is getting a bit boring. And after we had made a comfortable transition with, Saurav, who came in after me, who still plays with Parikrama, we made a comfortable transition. Then I moved on to focusing on producing music. So and back then I bought myself a Korg Triton, if you remember. That was the thing. so yeah, I still remember the Korg Triton cost me a couple of grand more than my car cost me. So I had about yeah yeah. And in the interim, I also did some since my job had taught me software, and at that time, digital recording studios were pretty novel. So I got a couple of assignments for these guys used to make multimedia stuff. They used to make these training modules on how to do Photoshop and everything that's on YouTube now. Earlier it used to be on CD-ROMs. So I got a lot of I got some work from there on some money.
So was that in Delhi or Bombay?
Yes, this was in Delhi. This was in Delhi. This was in Delhi. All of this is because but till the time I was playing with Parikrama, it had to be Delhi because that's where the band was. That's where we rehearsed. We were a Delhi-based band. Parikrama still is a Delhi-based band. So after I left the band, then I mean I kept the live thing going. I played sessions with Silk Route for quite a few gigs, and I jammed in a couple of clubs. But I started focusing on producing music, and it took me about a year to 2 years, where I went from being this guy who would only play guitar to sort of getting at least starting producing music for radio commercials, corporate audio visuals, small 10-second animation stuff which used to come out. So that was the next step. And the moment I thought that I felt confident that I could do this, then I mean by that time I just gotten married, and so my wife and I we just sat in our car and we drove down to Bombay. That was 2004, and then we started from scratch again, just made the calls and sort of made my way through. And I found the most comfort, I would say, in terms of both ethics and in terms of culture with advertising, because I was meeting people who were like me. You know, at that time, the film industry, I don't know, it just didn't seem a place where I could fit in at that point. So advertising is what happened, and then one thing led to the other. Obviously, it took some time, but it became the scene where I I think I have done most of my work, and also I found majority of acceptance and monetary reward.
Excellent. You make it sound very, what shall we say, and then, once upon a time se leke, and then they lived happily ever after kind of a thing. It's not that rosy as you make it sound. This struggle of yours of meeting ad agencies, now there are already established composers who are working with ad agencies. There's this Delhi boy who's come, he's making the
Yeah,
rounds, he's playing his demos, and
yeah.
was there not any moment where you felt what the hell am I doing man, मैं उससे अच्छा दिल्ली में ही था, यहाँ क्यों मैं struggle करने आ गया, that kind of a
Mhm.
thought or experience or sleepless nights maybe.
So, I mean, the difficult part was that from being this reasonably well-known uh, musician from the independent scene, which is, hey, I'm Vipin. Hey, you're Vipin from Parikrama. Yeah, the doors would open pretty easily to being a complete nobody because in the advertising scene, not many people were or are aware of the independent scene. So that is the tough part from being somebody who's already achieved something in one vertical of music to then, coming to another vertical of music and actually nothing of that really translates. I find that actually quite strange. That's actually a very interesting uh, point that these verticals they don't talk to each other. Like if you're a really big guy, uh, let's say in the live scene, and if you only come to the unless and until somebody who's working in a studio knows you and calls you, but when you do the rounds of let's say playback singing or session singing, that hardly translates. And then if you're in advertising and if you want to do films, that hardly translates. Uh, I guess if you're big with Bollywood, then it translates everywhere. So it's I don't know. There's some sort of probably a unsaid hierarchy there. I don't know. But yeah, so that is a I think that's a tough thing for anybody who's already gone a certain way in a certain direction and then has decided to change. So that was tough for sure. But let's just have it plain and simple for all the young guys who are young individuals who are hearing this, as far as music is concerned, or any artistic pursuit is concerned, you've got to be ready for a uphill walk throughout your life because it will never be a walk in the park. However, wherever it is that you're walking out of your own free will, and you are walking with the beautiful scenery around, which could be the art of your choice, and you will always be happy doing what you're doing if you're doing it for the right reason.
That's very nicely put, thank you. So Vipin, off late you've like you said, you've in Bombay advertising was your focus, and you did a couple of films also, and I just realized that you were also national award winner.
Yes, sir.
So could you tell us about that?
Oh, that is actually a very interesting story, if you will indulge me.
Yes, please.
So there was this phase. You keep. I think every freelancer goes through this phase. There's a phase in which the freelancer is like, "Hey, I make music and I'll make music for anybody and everybody because that's what I do, and let's spread it." And then you get, taken for a ride, and then you say, "You know what? If you can't afford my fees, don't call me." So as as a freelancer, I think we all go through it. So same with me, I go through these cycles. So I was going through the latter cycle. I'd been taken for rides. I was going through this latter cycle of saying that, listen, this is my feast. If you can't afford me, I really don't care. I'm not going to work for you. So I was going through this phase, and there was this guy he's now in the industry, Manik. He's a sound designer. I don't know if you know him, Manik Gotra. So he reached out. At that time, he was with FTI, the Film Institute in Pune, right? So he reached out and he said, me and my friend Deepti, we're working on this student project, right? And we would really like you to score for us. So I was like, yeah, man, because I charge so much. This is like, we can't really afford anything. We can only afford this much. So I said, no, no, I don't think I'll do it. She says, doesn't matter. I'm still going to send you the DVD. If you find the time, you see it. And if you see it and if you like it, you do it. Otherwise, it's cool. I said, yeah, okay, you can take a chance, but I'm not going to see it. Okay, fine. So he sent me, he sent me the DVD. So the DVD is lying there. And then, one of those nights, the wife is crashed out early. You're just like hanging out. There was no Netflix at that time. You're done with your daily dose of DVD movies and with music practice and all that. You're already done with that. So you're like, okay, this DVD was lying there on the table. So I said, okay, let's just see it. So I saw the DVD. It had come to me with just the on location dialogue. and it was mind blowing. I loved it. It was about a 20-minute film. So I really liked it. So I called Deepthi the next day, uh, walking on Versova Beach. And I said, Deepthi, you know what? I really like your film and I would really like to do it. And forget the money. I don't want any money. That's fine. It's not a problem. However, I have only one condition is that I will do it the way I want to do it and I will not redo it. Because once I'm happy with it, then this has to be my interpretation of your movie and not the score that you have perceived for it possibly. And I can tell you one thing that it will not be what you perceived because it was a period film and I wanted to do something contrary. So she said, okay, that's done. So, anyways, that was over and done with, and we forgot. 2 years later, I was driving somewhere for a session, advertising session. So this guy, Mike, calls me and he says, hey, congratulations, man. So I said, "Why, what happened?" He says, dude, you don't know the news like it's in the papers. Your name is on the list. What list? You won the national award. I said, listen, they don't have national awards for advertising. What are you talking about? I'd forgotten that I'd even done that film. And yeah, so he said, listen, I'm Manik. Remember we did that film? So I said, yeah, yeah, yeah. He says, so that you got the. So in those days, the national award was given only for two categories. One was feature and one was non-feature. Unlike now, where they have categories for documentaries, short films, I think regional films. So there are multiple now national awards for different. In those days, it used to be feature and non-feature.
Okay, so what film was this and what year?
This was a film called Narveen. It was a short film, and this was in maybe 2007, 2008, somewhere.
Okay, and what language was this film in?
This was Hindi. It
Okay,
was based on the partition,
okay, okay.
and it was a very, very touching story and very ethereal story, very imaginative, very evocative, and it wasn't put in a very straight jacketed way. I really liked it. It was very dreamy. It was very nice. Yeah.
So this brings me to a question that given full freedom like which you got in this film, you said
Hmm.
you put in your terms that boss मैं जो करूँगा you have to accept otherwise bye
Hmm.
bye, right?
Correct. Correct.
If that approach is taken for every project, do you think it will be a good approach for a musician?
It will be an excellent approach because uh, you get people of a certain expertise so that they can add, right? And if you don't want them to add, and if you simply want them to do as directed, then you don't need that caliber. I mean, you still need the technician. You still need somebody who can play music theory without without the notes being incongruous. Yes, sure. I mean, so you could do with the arranger probably, but you don't need a composer, right? I mean, same. I mean, if you want art, you need an artist. But if you want to paint the wall and you already know what the color, then you need a painter, not an artist. So I think that is the demarcation, and I would imagine both are justified because sometimes you are looking at a wall and you say, I don't want art here. All I want is a plain white wall, and that is absolutely fine. That is where you get the painter. But if you want art, then I think you have to let give the artist that freedom because that is when it becomes interpretive. Otherwise, it is direction based. So I would imagine both have their place because in a commissioned project, if everybody starts interpreting, things can go pretty uh, oddly. But in a project that starts out as being collaborative, as saying that I'm going to do this, and then you have the freedom to do that. I think then that's a great way.
Okay, I think that's very nicely put too. So Vipin, off late you've started this Vipin Mishra project.
Mhm.
So could you run us through that a part of your life?
Yes, yes, I would love to. So I think, like I've been saying, that it's funny how life keeps coming full circle. Uh, After a good 15 years of doing commissioned work, which I thoroughly enjoyed, to be honest with you, towards the end of those 15 years or maybe 13 years, I started to get a little bored because I was not pushing my envelope anymore, and the requirements were, well, I would say repetitive, uh, and it was not challenging in me anymore. And then I took a little bit of a break, maybe a year or so. I traveled a lot. Like I told you, I love outdoors. I love motorcycles. So I mean, I did all of that, and I came back with a very simple conclusion that I need to make music for the sake of making music because otherwise, I think I would have done all of this which I'm doing. It would be in vain because After performing for live for almost 10 years, and working out hundreds and hundreds of songs, and writing another 10, 12 songs, and then moving on to music production, producing for commercials, producing for movies, learning that entire gamut, but then never really getting down to express anything that you've been through. I think that would be criminal. I thought that would be criminal. So I just said that, I'm going to set up this indie project in which I'm going to keep my focus very simple. It is going to be for expression, and I'm trying to produce the best music that I can within that focus. So that's what I do with Vipin Mishra Project. I've been also been conscious about writing in Hindi, because while we were with Parikrama, our medium of uh, of expression was English. Uh, uh, Obviously, we are speaking in English, so we are both comfortable with that language. But for some reason, I had this thought that our larger diaspora of listeners who are well versed with Hindi, what if they could be introduced to a world of new sounds and a world of new melodies and a world of new arrangements, and most importantly, a world of new perspective. By perspective, I mean bulk of our songs in the film industry are written about love. You are either falling in love, or you're falling out of love, or your heart is broken, or you've gotten infatuated with this chick you've seen, or the chick has gotten infatuated with the guy, so on and so forth. So I mean, or you love your mother and now you love your sister, and there's this brotherly love. So I mean, all of our songs are just focusing on that one topic, and I think you'll agree with me that the lyrical content has gotten degenerative to such an extent that it's a joke now, right?
You don't feel like listening to those kind of words or sing them.
Exactly. So all put together, I said that perspective, if you were to given, you write songs about inner strength, or you write songs about never giving up, or you write songs about did you know that how if you smile at somebody, somebody smiles back at you, and that's the loop which you should be aiming at. I mean, there are so many, it's endless. So that is what Vipin Mishra Project in a nutshell is about. It's about writing independently in every way, making music independently in every way. There's no market research, and I'm not trying to understand what the audience wants. I'm only trying to put out there what I would like to express and share, and hope that some of the people over here it like.
Excellent, and I wish you all the very best for your future songs.
Thank
So,
you, sir.
Vipin, when you kind of come up with these independent songs, and then you realize that obviously people who listen to them are exposed to them, hear about them, uh, will want to listen to you and follow you more. But
Yeah,
nowadays there is a trend where people are spending on marketing and getting a lot of views, and views has become the benchmark of your success.
correct.
So how do you take it as a person and go on still in spite
Yes,
millions of watching or not watching or whatever?
yes. That actually again is an excellent question. See, I think uh, social media is an extension of our own psychology. We need, as human beings, we need acceptance. Okay, when it was live, it was it was a bit disappointing if there were only three people, but if there were 3,000, you were happy. So I think it is an extension of that. However, the big difference is that was real, and those 3,000 people were real, or those three people were real. In now, in the virtual world, that reality has gone away. So the way I look at it is, let's say I put out music, and in today's day, 1,000 people hear that. Let's assume. Now that's a dismal figure by most people's standards. But the way I look at it is, 1,000 people. Have you seen what 1,000 people look like when they stand? Right now, so that is what you have to look at. I feel that is what you have to look at. You have to say that these 1,000 people were not marketed, were not purchased, and they are not bots. They are people who've decided, who've chosen to hear your song. However, those 1,090 people have decided or chosen to leave a comment. 90 people congratulating you after a live gig. That doesn't happen, right? How many times have you played a live gig and people have queued up? 90 people have said, we would like to personally tell you that we love the song and we like this line. So I think what we are missing out is that there is a difference between all those other thousands and millions who might or might not exist. Obviously, there are also successful organic artists. I must tell you about this because I myself had begun to sort of doubt the system. But I had a chat with a friend of mine who manages Vipul Chetri. Have you heard of Vipul Chetri? Okay, so Vipul Chetri is an independent artist. He does folk, acoustic, and he sings in Nepali. And he is hugely successful. And by hugely successful, I mean it can only mean one thing for a musician, that he has lots and lots of people who love his music, who hear his music and follow him on social media and all. And so when I was speaking to his manager, who's also a dear friend of mine, he reassured me one thing. He says that they don't spend a single paisa on marketing, and they make good money from Spotify. They make good money from YouTube. So what I'm saying is that there's always two sides to the story, Sudeep. We would all, I mean, if I get only 1,000 views and you get a million, I mean, I would like to believe that hey, yeah, Sudeep must, if not, Aditya must have got the stuff, and my music is just as good. It deserves better. I mean, that could be one part of it, but it's not always the case. It's not always.
Correct. So I guess that has never been an aim for you, but you're
No,
looking at the positive side
I
of it.
think it'll be no, I think it'll be incorrect. See, every artist aims to reach thousands and millions. And I mean, if I was to reach everybody in India, then I'd want to reach everybody in the Indian subcontinent and then the world. So I think I would be lying if I say that that is not what I want. But what I'm trying to tell you is that there are various categories. I mean, if you played cricket, it's not necessary that you'll be a Sachin Tendulkar. That's a fact of the matter, right? So, I mean, I've chosen music and I'm doing music, and the reason why I'm doing music is because I want to do music. I think everything else should come secondary. Yes, it's important. I would love it if I had a lot of people who are singing my songs, and or more people. There are people, but more. But I mean, it is what it is, and you carry on doing what you do.
Super. And I'm sure after watching this video of yours, we will be able to add at least one, if not many,
Yes,
to your fan following.
yes, yes. I hope so. But also people who are genuinely interested in music and the industry and what goes behind it.
Correct. Correct. So on that note, Vipin, we'll end this part, and in the next part, we'll talk about other things that will help the viewers and youngsters of today.
Yes, let's do that. And thank you so much for taking this initiative of calling me and having me. I really enjoyed our conversation because half of the answers can only be interesting if the questions are interesting. So thank you for that.
Thanks. Thanks.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye.